In this example, we're going to assign oxidation numbers to atoms of molecules. Here we have 9 molecules, so let's begin. In this molecule, we have an N atom and an F atom. An F atom, according to our table, precedes or is more important than an N atom. And that means we first assign our number, oxidation number, to F. F gets -1, but since we have 3 Fs, that means this one has a -3. And since our entire molecule is neutral, this one must be +3. +3 minus 3 gives you neutral, so 0 charge. Makes sense. Let's look at ammonium, NH4. NH4 has an overall charge of +1. Now let's look at the atoms. Our H atom is more important than N atom, so we assign to H first. Since H is not attached to a metal atom, we assign H a +1. So 4 H's get +4. Since we want a +1 overall charge, this guy must be a -3. -3 plus 4 gives you a +1. Let's look at NO3. This guy has -3 as an overall charge. So let's look at the individual atoms. O is more important than N. That means we first assign our O value. So O gets a -2. Since we have 3 O's, this becomes -6 for 3 O's. And since we want a -1 overall, our N must be +5. Notice how in our 3 examples, our N differed in every example. In this one it was a +3, in this one it was a -3, and in this one it was a +5. Let's look at 4. In 4 we have an ionic compound. And that means we have an atom and another molecule. So this atom, since it's in the second group, gets a +2. So this is a +2. And we see from this example that each individual guy gets a -1. So -1 times 2 gives us a +2 for this whole guy. Another way of seeing it, a -2, sorry. Another way of seeing it would have been to realize that this whole compound is neutral. So if this is +2, this must be -2. Now the individual atoms are the same as this example. Let's look at this guy. Well, from this example, we know that each ammonia molecule has a +1 charge. That means 2 ammonia molecules will have a +2 charge. Now since this entire compound is neutral, that means this guy has to be a -2. And now let's assign individual oxidation numbers to each atom. So O precedes S. That means we assign to O first. O gets a -2. So -2 times 4 atoms gives you a -8 for O. And since we want an overall -2 on this a molecule, this S must have a +6. +6 minus 8 gives you a -2. Now we're not going to assign anything to this guy because we already did that in example 2. Let's look at 6. BaSO4. So once again, Ba, since it's in the second group, must have a +2. So Ba gets a +2. Let's look at SO4. Now SO4 from this example we know has a -2. So this guy must be -2. Another way of seeing it would have been to realize that this whole thing is neutral. So if this is +2, this must be -2. Now we're not going to assign anything to individual atoms because we did that in this example. Let's look at 7. Now in 7 we have copper and S. Right? S precedes copper. So S is in the same group as oxygen. So S must have a -2. So S has a -2. Now this whole compound has a neutral charge. So if this is -2, our copper must be +1 each. Right? So this makes our 2 coppers +2. Let's look at this guy. Now we already did ammonium. We know that's +1. So if this whole thing is +1, that means this whole guy must be +1. Now this whole guy must be -1. And we saw that in this example, it was -1. So this whole guy is -1. Now let's look at individual atoms. Individual atoms are the same exact as these 2 guys. This must be -2 times 3, -6 for 3 oxygen molecules. To create a -1 overall on this molecule, this N must be a +5. +5 minus 6 -1. You can check that and it works. For ammonium, the same thing that we did here. This H is assigned first, so it gets a +1 times 4, a +4. So this guy gets a +4. And this N, to create a +1 overall charge, must be -3. So -3 + 4 gives us a +1, works. Let's look at the last one, this guy. Well, we already know from this example and this example that SO4 is -2. So SO4 must be -2. So our Zn must be +2 because we want a neutral atom. Now let's look at individual guys. Well, it's the same thing as we did here. This guy is assigned first to oxygen, so oxygen gets a -2 times 4, -8, and we want an overall of -2. That means our S must get a +6. +6 minus 8 gives us a -2.